Love and control. Two forces that often collide. But when they do, is it possible to save a relationship? When trust is replaced by control, when love becomes conditional. What happens to the people caught in the middle?
I didn't think I'd ever end up here. Sitting across from a judge, telling my side of the story as if our entire relationship was just some case to be reviewed. But here we are in this courtroom, and I'm forced to look back at a relationship that started with so much love and hope, only to crumble under the weight of control, doubt, and resentment. I never thought marriage would be easy, but I thought we had what it took. In the beginning, there was this magic between us, this connection that felt unbreakable. Mark and I met in college, and everything about him seemed perfect. He was funny, confident, and driven, qualities that attracted me immediately. He had a way of making me feel safe, as if nothing could go wrong as long as we were together. At first, everything was so simple. We'd spend hours talking, laughing, and planning for the future. I was 23 when we got married, young, naive, and full of dreams. He was 25, already settled in his career, and always the one everyone looked up to. I thought I'd found someone who could help me navigate the world, someone I could count on. But somewhere along the line, things began to change. It was subtle at first, just little things. He'd tell me how to dress for certain events, how to act in front of his colleagues, and what opinions were acceptable. He wasn't overt about it. He was always so charming and polite, never aggressive. But gradually, it started feeling like I was walking on eggshells. I told myself I was overthinking it. After all, it wasn't anything that seemed that bad, right? He was just protective. He loved me, and maybe I was just being sensitive. But the more time passed, the more I realized that his concerns were starting to control my choices. It got worse over the years. He started to limit my time with friends, and I was like, what? In my mind, but my thought was he would only want the best for me. He'd say he didn't like me going out too much without him, especially with people who weren't in our circle. It was never a clear no, but the hints were there. Insinuations about how people might misunderstand my intentions, or how I should be more mindful of how others perceive me. Then it became about who I could talk to, who I could trust. He'd criticized my friendships, claiming they were distractions, that they took time away from us. It was all about control, but it was disguised as care. And I allowed it to happen. I told myself it was his way of showing love, that he just wanted again and quote the best for me. But as time went on, I started to lose myself. My thoughts weren't my own anymore. I wasn't making decisions for me. I was making decisions based on what he wanted, what he approved of. We had our first big argument after I made a decision without consulting him. I remember it clearly. I had taken a job offer at a company I'd been eyeing for months, but when I told him, he was furious. Not because he didn't think it was a good opportunity, but because I didn't ask for his opinion first. He said it was disrespectful, that we were a team, and that I needed to trust him enough to bring these decisions to him. He didn't yell. He didn't call me names. But there was this cold, controlling tone that made me question my own judgment. I started to see things differently. But by then, it was hard to break free from this cycle we'd created. I tried to address it. I told him I needed space to grow, that I needed to feel like my opinions and choices mattered. But every conversation ended the same way, with him telling me that I was being dramatic, that I didn't appreciate all the sacrifices he had made for us. And so I did what I knew best, what we all do when we don't know how to fix things. I withdrew. I kept quiet, told myself to accept the way things were, and convinced myself that maybe I was the one who was wrong. Maybe I didn't know what was best for me after all. Things reached a boiling point when he started tracking my phone. It wasn't a big deal at first. He said he was just keeping an eye on me to make sure I was safe. But eventually, I found myself looking over my shoulder, wondering if I was allowed to go somewhere without him knowing, if he'd get upset about a simple text message or a phone call. It wasn't the love we once had, it was control disguised as concern. I started questioning everything, my life, my choices, my identity. Was I still the person I used to be? Or had I become this person who lived for someone else's approval, whose every move was dictated by someone else's fear? I didn't even know how I had gotten here. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that the marriage I had once believed in was no longer the one I was living. The breaking point came when I found out he was looking through my personal things. I had an email from a colleague about a project I was working on, and he went through it without asking. He said it was because he needed to make sure I wasn't getting too close to anyone at work. That was the moment I realized I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't live in a relationship where I was suffocated by someone else's need to control. I confronted him about it. We had the most honest conversation we'd had in years, but it wasn't a conversation that ended in reconciliation. It ended with me packing my things. I realized I was afraid to live a life that wasn't my own, but I was also afraid of living without him. I still loved him in some way, but I didn't recognize the man I had married anymore. And so here I am, sitting in front of you, trying to make sense of it all. Did I do the right thing? Did I leave because I was weak? Or did I leave because I had finally found the strength to stand up for myself? I don't know. But what I do know is that the relationship had become a prison, and I couldn't keep living behind those bars. I don't think anyone is a villain in this story. Mark had his fears, his insecurities, just like I had mine. He loved me in his way. But love and control are not the same thing. And sometimes, even love can suffocate you when it becomes conditional. Can love ever truly survive when it's intertwined with control? Or does a relationship lose its foundation when respect and independence are compromised?